Hey guys, Bob here from Raw Strength and Muscle, and today we're going to talk about how stubborn fat works, okay? The best way to understand stubborn fat is to imagine a parking lot after it rained, okay? There is going to be like a lot of the surface of the parking lot that's just wet, okay? There's no real water accumulated there. It's just wet. As soon as the sun comes out, it just evaporates and it's dry. Then there are certain places where there's like a little bit of like a deeper point, okay? A little bit of a hollowed out area. Now, obviously, if one part of the parking lot's just wet, that's going to evaporate and dry up faster than if there's like a quarter of an inch or a half of an inch of a deep puddle in another area. And then, of course, there are these places where you just have like a massive pothole that's like, a foot deep or a foot and a half deep. And that's going to fill up with a lot of water. There's going to be the most water accumulated there, and that is going to take the longest to evaporate. And that's the way that your body works, okay? Like you have more fat cells in certain parts of your body than you do in others, okay? And having more fat cells basically means that you accumulate more fat. So when you start to put on fat, you notice it there first, and there are other parts that look really lean, okay? When the really lean parts start to show some flab, the problem areas where you have more fat cells are just an absolute disaster. And then, of course, because you have more fat there, once you start to lose fat, like when the water starts evaporating, you're going to notice it more where you have less fat. You have less fat and boom, it's gone and you're pretty lean. Whereas you have a stubborn area where there's more fat. So obviously it's going to look like it's not going anywhere because there's more of it to go. Okay. So what determines where your stubborn areas are? Well, a couple of things, okay? First of all, human beings tend to store more fat in certain areas than in others, okay? In general, okay? Men and women have different areas. Like women will have like lean abs and they'll have like a flabby ass or like flabby like upper thighs, okay? Whereas a man might have like a relatively like decent hard-ish ass, even if he's got some fat, and his legs might be very lean, but he'll have like a gut, okay, or lower back fat. So it depends upon, like I said, human beings in general tend to have certain areas where they gain a lot of fat and maintain a lot of fat. Men and women, okay, have different areas where they tend to have more fat. And then it goes person to person. So I'm going to go ahead and show you just on myself, since I started a cut, where my problem areas are or where my stubborn fat's at. How does stubborn fat work? Okay, I just started a slow cut from a bulk, and you can see I have a huge amount of fat in my lower back. I have quite a bit of fat in my love handles. I actually have something resembling abs, okay, relatively little fat here compared to here, and I actually have very, very, very little fat in my lower abs. A lot of guys accumulate a lot of fat in their lower abs and have a problem losing it. With me, it's obviously back here. It just depends upon person to person. Okay, so when I get this back fat down to like this, so it's practically gone, I'm gonna have no love handles, shredded abs, I'm gonna have crazy vascularity in my lower abs because that's just the way my body accumulates fat. And obviously, when I lose fat, it goes from the tiny bit first, and the last to go is my quote problem areas or my stubborn fat, just person to person. Now, how do you lose this stubborn fat? How do you get rid of it? Well, a couple things, okay? First of all, the way you get rid of fat in a stubborn area is the same way you get rid of fat anywhere. It just takes longer. You have to just burn more calories, okay, than you are taking in. Like I said, it looks like you have your certain areas don't accumulate any fat or certain areas accumulate fat last and they'll get lean faster. You're losing fat in your stubborn areas as well. The only difference is, like I said, there's so much of it that it takes longer. There's so much of it that it looks like it's not going anywhere because there's so much of it, okay? So perseverance is one thing. Now, people talk about spot reduction, okay, spot reducing. And what they mean is if I do tricep pushdowns, as a woman, if a woman does tricep pushdowns, is she going to lose her triceps fat because she's exercising this muscle? No, okay. If a guy has a gut, is he going to be able to do sit-ups and lose fat on his gut? No, okay. You're not going to be covered in fat and then have a six pack, but the rest of your body's covered in fat. It don't work like that, okay? You lose fat from all of your body. However, the effect that people want by spot reduction is possible. Okay. So this is like something that I say that, a lot of people don't agree with because they just read PubMed and like, oh yeah, you lose fat all over your body. Spot reduction is impossible. You cannot spot reduce the amount of fat in a certain area. But I will tell you this, if you have strong, well-developed abs, they will push through the fat and make it look like you have abs when you're not lean enough to have abs, okay? The same thing with the woman with the triceps, okay? If a woman has like flabby, zero muscle, nothing, and she just has fat hanging off the back of her arm, she is going to look and her arm is going to feel worse than if she had a big triceps muscle. So by doing triceps pushdowns, a woman's not losing fat from her tricep, but what she is doing is she's building up muscle, so it's not just pure flab. Like it's not just basically some like a bone with some fat on it and some skin covering it and everything's flabby. It's a bone with a big tricep muscle and then there's fat covering it, but like I said, it's solid fat. Like I said, if a guy has like big, strong muscles in his chest, his shoulders, his arms, his abs are well developed, he'll be able to look like you could see muscle definition, like you could see muscle shape at a much higher body fat than if he had like just rib cage fat, the same amount of fat and skin covering it, okay? So that's basically the bottom line. Definitely do your strength training to build your muscular size, to go ahead and make solid fat at least, okay, while you're fat. But also the important thing to losing stubborn fat is the same thing to losing fat anywhere else. You just got to be in a caloric deficit. You got to burn more calories than you're consuming, and you're going to lose fat all over your body. It's just that the stubborn fat areas are going to be the last to go.